Ms. Heather-Putnam, can you please swear in the jury?
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will truly listen to this case and render a true verdict and a fair sentence as to this defendant? I do. You may be seated.
Good afternoon, jury. Today, your duty will be determining whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty, based only on the facts and evidence provided in this case. The prosecution has the burden of proving the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. This burden remains on the prosecution through the trial. The prosecution must prove that the crime was committed and that the defendant is the person who committed the crime. However, if you are not satisfied of the defendant's guilt to that extent, then reasonable doubt exists and the defendant must be found not guilty. Ms. Heather, what's today's case?
Your Honor, today's case is the State of Pennsylvania versus Charles Lee and Jessica Peterson. The charges are attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and aggravated assault.
How does the defendant plead?
Not guilty.
All right. Is the prosecution ready?
The prosecution is present and ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Is the defendant ready?
Defense is ready to proceed, Your Honor.
Guys may be seated. Prosecution will go first for the opening statement. Prosecution.
Fear. That's what Dr. Joel Bish has been living through for the past 3 months. Today we're here to talk about the crimes that have been committed against Dr. Bish. Now, those crimes have caused him to live in a constant state of fear. Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. My name is Brandon Adorno. Along with my co-counsel, Brandon Klein, we represent the state of Pennsylvania in today's case. Now, it all began in September of this year. That's when the attacks against Dr. Bish started. It wasn't just one attack. It wasn't just 2. It wasn't even 3. It was 4 attacks against Dr. Bish over the course of this 3-month period. And who did it? The defendants. Charlie Lee and Jess Peterson. Throughout the course of this trial, you're going to learn how close these two were to each other, how they spent all their time together, and how they committed these crimes together. The evidence will also show that one of the defendants didn't really get along with Dr. Bish, and the other defendant liked to play practical jokes on him. But whether or not these crimes were committed out of malice or as a practical joke, these crimes were still committed and eventually escalated to the point in which Dr. Bish's life was at risk. And the prosecution is going to prove this to you today through 7 witnesses. The first will be Detective Alexa Hoffman. She's going to tell you about her investigation from start to finish. She's going to tell you how when she ended, she found all the evidence to point towards the defendants. You're also going to hear through several eyewitness testimonies today. Meredith and Maria are signed as students. They're going to tell you how they saw the direct actions of a defendant's crime when they saw Dr. Bish laying unconscious on 2 separate occasions during this 3-month period. You're also going to hear from Cheyenne, another assigned student. She's going to talk to you about her experiences with Dr. Bish as being his mentee. She's also going to tell you how she knows the defendants and how she knows they have reasons to commit this crime. You're also going to hear from Dr. Stevenson, a psychology professor at Ursinus College, who was a co-worker of Dr. Bish. Pay close attention to when she talks about an interaction that happened between one of the defendants and Dr. Bish, because you're going to learn that this interaction is where the animosity started between the defendant and Dr. Bish. And then you're going to hear from Dr. Bish himself. You're going to hear everything that he has endured for these last 3 months, and how eventually he's even fearful for his own life. And our last witness, Officer Talberco, will be talking to you and asking you about, will be informing you how he found a poisonous apple in Dr. Bish's office. And that poisonous apple could have very well taken away Dr. Bish's life. We have a prosecution bear a burden of proof in this case. That means that we have to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the defendant committed these crimes, both of them. And we accept that burden. Because we are confident that these defendants have committed 4 counts of aggravated assault, 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder, 1 count of attempted murder. At the end of this trial, my co-counsel, Brandon Klein, will ask that you give a verdict in this case. A verdict to find the defendant guilty of these charges, to hold the defendants accountable for what they've done, and to give Dr. Bish justice for what has occurred. A verdict that is both consistent with and demanded by the evidence, to find the defendants guilty of all charges. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. Defense, you can open the statement. Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today the prosecution is going to attempt to build a case against my clients who are innocent. The prosecution is going to attempt to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that my 2 clients co-conspired to assault and murder their beloved mentor and teacher. Now, a lot of you may not be familiar with this, but building a case is a lot like building a house. Each piece of evidence is just another building block in the process, and the prosecution wants to build a strong brick house against my clients. Let me show you something. The prosecution is going to show you these blocks. They're going to show you how the sides are all straight. They're going to show you how it's got the right shape. They're going to show you a lot of things. They're not going to show you something. And what they're not going to show you is that when you look at these blocks from just the right angle, they're as thin as this playing card here. And then all of a sudden, their case starts to unravel. It is an illusion, a magic trick. And it must be. Because, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, my clients are innocent. They have no smoking gun. They have no glove. It does not fit. The evidence is circumstantial. There is reasonable doubt. And I have faith in you and the American justice system that justice will be done today, and you will find my clients not guilty.
Thank you, counsel. Prosecution, you may call your first witness.
The prosecution calls Detective Alexis to the stand.
Witness stand, and Ms. Heather will swear you in.
Just put your hand on the class Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do.
Would you please state your name for the jury?
Alexa Hoffman.
Detective Hoffman, could you please explain how you became involved in this case?
Yes. I'm a detective for Science College, and we got a 911 call on September 12th, and from Maria, and she let us know that Bish had been attacked with his head on his desk, and we ran right over and investigated.
Could you explain the nature of the attacks?
He had been hit over the head in each attack.
How many attacks were there?
There was 4.
4 attacks. Do we know what he was hit over the head with?
In one case we do. In the 4th attack, he was hit over the head with a baseball.
Could we see the baseball? All right. Were any fingerprints found on this?
Yes.
Whose fingerprints were they?
They were Charlie, Jess's, and Bish.
All right. And how do we know that this is what was used to attack him?
I was lying right next to him after the 4th attack inside of the stop.
So could you explain to us how these attacks occurred? How do we know what was the evidence of these attacks?
Should I go through it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so like I said in the 1st attack, Maria came and called the police because she found Bish at his desk. She informed us that she saw Charlie at the scene, and so we had interrogated him. For the second attack, Meredith found him on the floor of the neuro lab, and there was a bow on his head. He didn't know what had happened, so we couldn't really get that much from it, but he was attacked again. And then on the third attack, he got hit, and then he looked behind him and saw a woman figure wearing a Snow White dress, and she was whistling, but that's all he saw. And in the fourth attack, he was at the bottom of the steps by Thaler with Charlie and Jess, and he had gotten hit with that baseball.
Thank you, Detective Hoffman. That will be all.
Defense, you may cross-examine the witness.
How you doing today, Ms. Hoffman?
Good, how are you?
Doing great. Now, did your department have sufficient evidence to conclusively place either one of my clients at any or all of these scenes?
Yes.
And what evidence is that?
At the fourth attack, they were both there. They were seen. Charlie was seen fleeing the scene at one point, and in the first attack, Charlie was seen outside the door from Bishop's office.
Do we have anything that implicates that they were the ones doing the attacking? Maybe they were just responding to the scene, or I don't know. Seems like Charlie would be at his research advisor's office. He's a studious man. I think he's trying to get into grad school. I think he's being a responsible student. Wouldn't you agree? Do you have anything that indicate that he might want to harm Professor Bish?
Well, we found things in the search warrant for the neuro lab and in his bedroom.
So you mentioned, can I see this search warrant for the neuro lab? One time in here?
I can
Well,
tell you what we found in them.
Doesn't matter, because as I remember, the search warrant for the neuro lab was not for either one of my clients, was it? I was told that the search warrant was for Cheyenne Lehman. At any point during your trial, did you ever suspect her of harming Professor Bish?
We did at one point, but a little bit later. So.
And why not?
Because she provided explanations for things that checked out.
Did you attempt to see if any of my clients could provide explanations?
Yes. Interrogation.
Well, at least one of my clients does have an alibi, but so can you conclusively place with any evidence, do you have anything that signifies they were there, they had the weapon, they harmed Bish, or is this all hearsay and speculation?
Jess was sitting at the table.
Objection, compound question.
No further questions.
Thank you. Prosecution, you may call your second witness.
The prosecution calls Miss Maria Miller to the stand. Would you state your name for the jury?
Maria Miller.
Miss Miller, were you witness
Hold
to
on,
the...
counsel. Sorry. Bill was swearing
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Alright, counsel.
Miss Miller, were you witness to the aftermath of the events of the attack on September 12th?
Yes, I was.
What did you see when you entered the room?
When I entered the room, I saw Dr. Bish laying with his head on his computer keyboard, and he was unconscious. So I said his name a couple of times and asked him if he was okay, and he said that he was hit from behind and he didn't know who hit him. So as soon as, then I went to the detectives and I got help.
Thank you. And what did you see when you left the room?
Well, there was a student sitting outside of the room when I entered the room, and I didn't know who it was at first, but I recognized him as an Asian student. And then when I left the room after that, he was not there.
And Is he sitting in this courtroom today?
Yes, he is.
Can you point to him, please? Thank you. That was
Defense ready.
Hello, Miss Miller. Hello. How you doing, Susan? Good. That's great to hear. So, we'll get right to the chase. Just a few moments ago, when the prosecution just asked you whether you were a witness to the aftermath of what happened to Dr. Briston. So we'll just make that quick. You said that you were a witness to the aftermath of what happened to him.
Yes.
So you weren't exactly. You didn't see anything before the attack.
No.
So we'll make that clear. Nothing was seen before the attack. Thank you very much. Now let's say you asked Fish what happened to him, and what did he say again?
He said he got hit in
From behind. From behind. He was hit in the head from behind. No one has eyes behind their head, so therefore he could not see who hit him. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And now we said that you saw a student sitting outside on a chair, and then when you came back, you didn't see him again, and you claimed that he was Asian,
Yes.
and you claimed that he is our defendant sitting over there.
Yes.
You said that you recognized him later on.
I recognize his face, but I know his name now because of future accounts.
I just like to make the statement that he's not the only Asian off campus.
Seriously. There's many of us, you know.
Order in the port.
It's very possible that you could have reconstructed an image of who you thought he was, seeing that you remember him after the fact, and only now you know his name. Is that correct?
It's possible.
You're not 100% sure that our defendant was the, in fact, Asian you saw that day. Just give me yes or no. If you're not 100% sure.
I'm not 100% sure.
Thank you. That'd be all.
Prosecution, you may call your next witness.
Prosecution calls Meredith W. to the stand.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please state your name for it?
Meredith Waters.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a student here at Ursinus.
How long have you attended Ursinus?
This is my second year. I'm a sophomore.
And so, how did you become involved in this particular case?
Well, one day, Professor Letterock asked me to go get Dr. Bish from his lab, and I walked in, and he was laying on the floor with his foot stuck out of the door.
Do you remember what day that was?
That was October 1st.
How did you know Dr. Bish?
I just know he is a professor here. That's all I know.
And have you been in that lab before?
No, I have not.
And what was Dr. Bish's condition when you saw him?
He was face down on the floor, no signs of consciousness.
What was your reaction?
I immediately went to the police.
What did you tell them?
I told them that I saw Dr. Bish laying on the floor with his foot out of the door, and it seemed that he had something around his head, but I could not tell what it was because I was so afraid I ran out.
No further questions.
Your name, Meredith?
Good, how are you?
Good. So, if what I gather is true, you're saying that you went into the lab, found Bish in an incapacitated state, and reported it to the police.
Yes.
So, you saw nothing else, just the fact that he was here.
No.
So, for all you know, he could have fallen and not been able to get up because he doesn't have life alert. He is old and prone to such accidents.
Objection, Your Honor. This question calls for speculation.
Sustained.
So, you have no way of knowing what happened to Dr. Bish.
No, I do not.
Prosecution may call the fourth witness.
The prosecution calls Cheyenne Wayman to the stand.
You swear to tell the truth, Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Would you please state your name for the jury?
Cheyenne Lehman.
Cheyenne, what is your relationship with the defendants?
I've known Jess since freshman year. We lived on the same hall. And we have similar friend groups. I didn't know Charlie very well until this summer.
How did you get to know him this summer?
The three of us were summer fellows with Dr. Bish. So we did research over the summer.
And how would you describe the defendant's relationship with Dr. Bish?
Dr. Bish really liked to pick on them. In class, he would insinuate that Charlie used illegal substances. Often, pretty much every
Objection,
day.
relevance.
Continue.
And he really started picking on Jess this summer.
How did he pick on her?
Objection, relevance.
It shows how a motive for the attack.
Alright, overruled.
He would call her names.
What kind of names?
He called her, sorry, he called her skin flap.
And why would he call her that?
The witness will answer the question.
I don't know.
Were you witness to the aftermath of the attack on October 28th?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw Charlie bending over, like kneeling over Dr. Bish, who was, he had fallen on the ground, and Charlie seemed to be checking to see if he was awake or alive, and then he ran away.
He ran away. Did he run away because he was seen?
I think he saw two of the witnesses that just testified. I don't know their names. I apologize. I think he saw people and he ran.
Thank you.
So, again, you were the witness to the aftermath of the attack. You came and you found Bish unconscious, or?
I saw Charlie hit him.
You saw Charlie hit him. You just said to him that you were a witness to the aftermath of the attack. So you were there at the attack and did nothing?
I'm not going to say something when someone's trying to kill someone else. I heard that something was happening to Dr. Bish. I'm sorry that I feared for my own life.
You said you saw Charlie standing over and checking to see if Bish was okay, correct? So you think it's unreasonable to assume that Charlie was merely checking to see if someone was okay because he's a good Samaritan, and I believe correctly that this system has laws to protect such people, not throw them in the court.
It would be reasonable to assume that, except I saw him hit Dr. Bish.
Do you have any
and
proof
then kneel down.
that he hit him? You know, as has been stated before, there are a lot of agents.
Objection.
On
The
this
witness does
campus.
not require evidence.
So there is no evidence to implicate Charlie. It's one that
Objection.
Counselor, please. Change your question.
Done with you.
The prosecution calls Dr. Jennifer Stevenson to the stand.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please say your name for the court.
Jennifer Stevenson.
What is your occupation?
I am an assistant professor of psychology and neuroscience here at Ursinus.
What is your educational background?
I have a PhD in experimental psychology from the University of Wisconsin in Madison.
So how long have you attended Ursinus College as an assistant professor?
I've worked at Ursinus since August of 2011, so this is my 3rd year here.
And how often do you interact with your coworkers?
Pretty much every day, well, during the week, not on the weekend.
Do you know Dr. Joel Bish?
Yeah.
How do you know him?
Well, he's my colleague. He also is a professor in the psychology and neuroscience departments, and I guess he's kind of like my boss because he's the program coordinator of the neuroscience program, and I'm in the neuroscience program as well.
Are there any other programs that you and Dr. Bish are involved in?
Psychology.
And are you in particular involved with Summer Fellows?
Yes. Yes, I have done summer fellows.
Does Dr. Bish do Summer Fellows?
Yes.
And have you ever witnessed any kind of incident between him and his students during Summer Fellows?
Well, I mean, last summer we ate lunch together. The psychology and neuroscience faculty and their students all had lunch together on Wednesdays as part of the Summer Fellows experience. So I saw him interact with them at that time.
Did you ever see Dr. Bish interacting with one of the defendants?
With both of them on Wednesdays at lunch.
And as a psychology professor, do you have a laboratory?
Yes, I have a laboratory on the 3rd floor of this building.
Is there anyone that you share this laboratory with?
Well, my students have access, and just recently, over the summer, I gave access to Dr. Bish so that we can both use similar equipment that would be housed there.
Does Dr. Bish help with the upkeep of the lab, like keeping it clean?
I mean, we both assume that our students will, pick up after themselves while they're in the lab, but I don't think he actually is involved with any of the upkeep directly.
Was there ever an incident in which that the lab wasn't clean?
Yes, so earlier this school year, I think it was in September, I was walking to a copier and I had to pass my alcove to my lab, and I heard Dr. Bish arguing with Jess, and so I went to see what was going on, particularly because it was at my lab, and I saw inside that it was very messy.
What was your reaction to that?
Well, I was upset because my students need the lab and they were running participants that day, and it needs to be in presentable state. And I wanted to make sure that Dr. Bish was going to take care of it because it's his responsibility to oversee when his students are using the lab.
So did you talk to Dr. Bish?
Yes, I mean the 3 of us at that moment were conversing loudly.
And who did Dr. Bish make clean the lab?
I'm really not sure what happened because he stormed off before things were 100% resolved. I would assume that he got Jess to clean it up, but I do not know. I just know that when I went back later that day, it was clean.
So just to clarify, you witnessed a heated argument between the defendant and Dr. Bish, correct?
Heated on one side with Dr. Bish raising his voice towards Jess, but Jess being very calm.
Thank you. No further questions.
Professor Stevenson, is there any reason that you and Bish might not have the best of relationships?
He's my colleague. What do you mean?
Has he ever done anything that you may find unprofessional or weird or unwanted?
Objection, Your Honor. Ambiguous question.
What can you tell us about any orders you may have against Professor Bish?
I have a restraining order against Dr. Bish.
Why do you have a restraining order against Professor Bish?
Because I think he's a potentially dangerous man.
And why do you feel that way?
I don't know where to begin. The reason that I got the restraining order was because he talked to the media and he told them that he had impregnated me against my knowledge and he was the father of my child. And someone that deluded, I don't know what he's capable of, and so I feared for myself and the safety of my daughter, and so I asked Detective Alexa to issue a restraining order.
Do you feel someone that exhibits these behaviors may be potentially threatening to the well-being of his students?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Dr. Bish is not on trial in this case, so objection will be relevant.
Well, thank you for your testimony. I know this must be hard for you to sit in the same room with that man.
The prosecution calls Dr. Joel Bish to the stand.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Dr. Bish, how long have you known the defendant?
3.5 years, give or take.
Could you please repeat louder so that the jury can hear you?
3.5 years, maybe, somewhere around there.
And what is the nature of your relationship with them?
I'm their instructor, and I have to remember like their letter of recommendation. So it's like their instructor in classes, their advisor, research mentor.
All right, could you...
Father figure.
Would you...
Order in the court.
Would you please describe Charlie Lee's character?
He's an Asian guy.
Would you please give more detail?
He's kind of submissive. Submissive Asian guy.
Submissive to who?
Pretty much everybody.
Anyone in particular?
Certainly to me, probably to Jess. Definitely to Jess. Maybe not really Cheyenne.
All right. Could you describe Jessica Peterson's character?
I think she's kind of a sociopath.
What makes you say that?
Objection.
On what ground?
Relevance.
Overruled.
Well, I just know certain things about her that are
Objection.
a little bit out of the
What
ordinary.
grounds is he's not a clinician? How can he speak to the presence or not presence of sociopathy in my client?
Thank you, counselor. Sustained. Move on to the next question.
Do you recall the attacks?
It's parts of them here and there.
Could you describe to the courts the attacks and how you felt during them?
How I felt. I mean, the first one, I just sort of woke up. I don't really know what happened. I was on the keyboard and it hurt like shit. Second one, again, I was in the lab. Can't remember exactly why I was going in there, but woke up and laying on the floor, headache, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure which one was next. I guess the one where I was down in the hallway down here. And that one I didn't actually get knocked unconscious. I sort of maintained my consciousness, and I looked up after I got hit down, I fell down to sort of one knee, and I looked up, and there was Snow White running away from me. And I'm pretty sure it was Jess running away from me.
What about the fourth attack?
Fourth attack, I was walking down the stairs between Baylor. Somebody asked me to meet them there. Just got a random note in my office. I walked downstairs to meet them there, and somebody hit me, and I woke up, and Jess was there.
Was anyone else there when you got there?
Not that I know of.
I'm very sorry that you've had to go through this ordeal these past 3 months.
Yeah.
No further questions.
Thanks.
Joel. I call you Joel.
Yeah, call me whatever you
Joel.
want.
What is it that you do here?
What do you mean?
Computer science.
I'm a professor.
You're a professor? Are you you familiar with the second law class here at this school?
Sure.
Are you familiar with a mock trial that they might run every year? Have you ever participated in such a thing?
Yeah, sure. Every year.
Every year?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you might have trouble separating what is an actual trial versus some phony teaching model? Maybe
Relevance, that's for educational purposes.
Sustained.
Are you familiar with the Incredible Hulk TV show?
Yes. Like the original one?
Yeah, like
Yeah, from like 1977.
Yeah.
Relevance?
Got something to it. How have you been emailing Jessica Peterson back and forth recently, discussing
Yeah, she's
anything with
my
her?
advisor, or my advisee.
What have the content of such emails been?
All kinds of stuff.
Name one.
Horses.
Horses. Your Honor, I'd like to introduce to the court, if I may, a couple of email threads. Couple of email threads, if I will. This is one that Peterson.
Can I see it before it is shown to the jury?
I'm just showing
Prosecution.
Come
for witness.
prosecution. Yep. She sent him a message saying that's one that he sent to her. Here's one where you can see she writes a clearly moving piece about her advisor despite the psychological abuse she suffers, and as a response I'm going to show you the jury now a couple of email. This was an email that my client received not too long ago from this man up here saying, not likely, it's darkest when your eyes aren't sending signal to your brain. It's coming, Jess, it's coming. A little medicine. In another email thread, they discussed a lovely article that was submitted on speaking to Joel's character, and in response, Joel replies that someone recognized the psychological abuse is perhaps one of the sweetest things a student has ever said about me. I am now complete. Basically, my client confronted her mentor about the psychological abuse that she was suffering, and he said that he loved nothing more.
Could my witness have a chance to respond?
I'm sorry?
Could my witness have a chance to respond? This isn't a question.
All right. Sustained. Please get to your point and answer. Ask the witness some questions.
How do you respond to these email threads?
I don't.
You know?
What do you want me to ask?
Why were you sending these types of emails to Jessica? What was the
Because
point?
she sent me an email in return. If she sent me an email, I would just respond to it.
Okay.
That's what people do on
No further questions.
The prosecution calls Officer Sam T.
Sam T.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please take your full name for the court?
My name is Sam Tellerico.
What is your occupation?
Well, I'm a police officer here at Science College for the Psychology and Law Police Department.
How long have you been a police officer?
Since the beginning of the semester.
How did you become involved in this case?
Well, the first incident, I can't remember who it was. Maria. She came to the classroom and she said that she found Dr. Bish unconscious in his office and that she requested that the police come and check it out.
What did you find?
We found Dr. Bish. He was awake at that point, but he was very disoriented and didn't know exactly what had happened to him. Said he felt like he got hit over the head.
Now, drawing your attention to a few months later, did you ever make a return visit to Dr. Bish's office?
Yes, I did.
Why did you make another visit to Dr. Bish's office?
Well, Dr. Bish said that he found an apple on his desk that he believed was from the Snow White character. Previously stated that he thought it was Jess. He said that there was an apple on his office. He believed it was poisonous, and he would not return to his office until someone came and removed it.
So how did you respond to this?
I said that I would come and remove it as soon as possible, which I did, and we picked up the apple with the CSI and bagged it and took it away from his office so that he could return it.
So where did you take the apple to?
We took it to our crime lab, put it in the evidence box.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to approach a witness what is the Collegeville Police Department forensic lab report of the apple. I'm handing a copy to opposing counsel. Would Your Honor like a copy as well? Please take a moment to look that over.
Okay.
Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's a toxicology report of the apple that was found on Dr. Bish's desk.
And have you seen this before?
Yes, I have.
And to your knowledge, is it a fair and accurate representation of the Collegeville Police Department forensics lab report that you last saw?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I ask that the lab report be moved into evidence.
I will allow it.
Now, is there any reference to the test that was conducted within this lab report?
Yes, there is.
Can you please read that out loud for the jury?
The analysis section.
Yes.
Okay. The ripe apple of Fuji variety weighs 3.5 ounces and appears to be primarily intact. Toxicology analysis indicates that 50 ppm of sericin in this apple. Normal sericin level, based on its naturally occurring presence in most apple seeds, should be no more than 2 ppm. It is unclear how this level of sericin was induced into the apple. Possibly it was soaked in a bath of liquefied sericin. This could be accomplished by dissolving ordinary rat poison in water and leaving the apple in the solution for a period of time.
And what was the conclusion of the toxicology report?
Was that the apple was placed there in order to poison and kill Dr. Bish.
No further questions.
Hello, Officer Tillers. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
That's great to hear. So,
That's okay.
well, my first question for you is this your first case?
This is my first case.
Okay, so you haven't had any previous cases such as this before? This
No.
magnitude?
Oh, no, especially not for this magnitude.
Okay, so you're relatively new into the force, you know?
I guess so. That doesn't mean unexperienced.
We can go talk about the apple finding that was found in Dr. Bish's office. Did you find, you stated that the apple was poisonous and put there to poison Dr. Bish?
Well, Dr. Bish thought that it was poisoned, and I collected it, and the CSI determined that it was poisonous.
Was there anything else found on the apple besides poison?
No. Well, what do you mean?
Were there any prints found on the apple?
No, there were not.
So no prints found on the apple, just poison. Do you know what circumstantial evidence is?
Yes, I do.
Can you please explain to the court and to the jury what circumstantial evidence is?
Evidence that is purely based upon, like, the circumstance, I guess. I don't know what else you want me to say about that.
Well, circumstantial evidence relies on the inference to connect the evidence to something other than the piece of evidence. So much like an example is a fingerprint, where there is no fingerprint on this apple.
Yeah, but probably I would assume that someone used gloves in order to handle the apple in order so that the fingerprints weren't on the apple. I mean, who would want, like, to poison an apple and then just, like, leave it on a desk so that we could find it and incriminate someone?
Alright, okay. Well, take a brief break.
Counselor must continue.
Okay. So going back onto the point of the fingerprints, you stated that it would be more likely for the person who wanted to poison Dr. Bish to use gloves?
No, most likely, I would assume so.
Okay. And the weapon that hit him over the head with the sock and the ball, that was intended to hurt Dr. Bish?
I assume so. I mean, why wouldn't it be?
What was found on the baseball?
I believe that there were fingerprints found on the baseball.
Okay, so there were no there was gloves, you were assuming that there was gloves used for the apple to poison Dr. Bish in terms of hurt him, and there were fingerprints found on the baseball used to hurt Dr. Bish. So these two pieces of evidence
make mistakes all the time.
Well, can you tell me whose fingerprints you found on the baseball?
I believe that it was previously stated that it was Jess's, Charlie's, and Dr. Bish's.
And who?
Dr. Bish's.
And
that's
Dr.
what I said.
Bish's? Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you. And do you believe that there was sufficient evidence indicating my client's guilt?
Yeah.
Can you please state those pieces of evidence?
Well, I mean, there are fingerprints on the baseball that hit
As
Dr.
well
Bish
as
over the
Dr.
head.
Bish's fingerprints.
Sure.
Okay. So not only were our defendant's fingerprints innocently on the baseball, so were Dr. Bish's.
Yeah,
Just like to
that's
make
what I
that
said.
clear.
Asking the same question over and over again.
Are you 100% sure you made the right decision?
Yeah. I wouldn't be testifying against them if I didn't think that they were guilty.
And you're making this claim based on one piece of evidence?
Oh, no, you asked for a piece of evidence. I can tell you more if you really want me to.
They're linked to my client?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that'll be all. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
This time, Your Honor, prosecution rests. We ask for a brief recess before the defense starts.
Any objections? No? Okay, councilors, we have a 5-minute recess.
Dr. Bruce Banner to the stand.
Swear in, Dr. Bruce Banner.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Please introduce yourself to the court.
My name is Bruce Banner.
And what is it that you do?
I am a behavioral scientist that studies the effects of media on certain people.
Could you elaborate a little further?
More specifically, I study the effects that certain TV shows have on people.
Go on.
So basically, I conducted a study, my most recent study, where we studied the effects of the Incredible Hulk TV show had on certain people. We had a control group who did not watch the show for the duration of 2 months, and then we had an experimental group which watched the show once a week for 2 months. And we found that the 95% of the people in the experimental group were more likely to cause self-harm upon themselves, while no one in the control group did. More specifically, 78% of the people in the people in the experimental group put a baseball in a sock and proceeded to whack themselves in the head, causing concussions, which seemed pretty weird. And also, 3 of the people in the experimental group were teachers, were professors at various universities, and these professors became very paranoid and started to they attempted to frame their students for murder.
So it's reasonable to assume then that someone that spent a lot of time as a child or has viewed the Incredible Hulk television show, it's likely that if they're a university professor that they may become paranoid and attempt to frame some of their students.
Yes, according to my study, it's highly likely.
Thank you for your time.
Dr. Bruce Banner, correct? So, you never actually met Dr. Bish before, have you?
No, I haven't.
You never conducted any kind of interview with him before, did you?
Not part of why I'm here.
So, you never felt the need to actually talk to the victim in this case, correct?
I've used statistics such as my study and other ones that I've done in the past to reach my conclusions.
But previously, you only mentioned statistics in your study, as in your direct examination, right?
Yeah, 95%, 78%.
And these are statistics from your study, correct?
That is correct.
You're aware that in the psychological field that studies are often peer-reviewed, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
In the psychological realm, studies are peer-reviewed, correct?
Yes, that is true.
So, there's no one else that can testify to the accuracy of your study.
I'm not present in the courtroom today, but people have reviewed my studies, not just me.
And Let's talk about this TV show that your study is out. It's called The Incredible Hulk, correct?
It's an awesome show. I don't know if you've seen it or not. But
And
pretty
so, to conduct this study, you would bring people into a room to watch the TV show?
No, pretty much we told them that they would watch the show once a week, and based on the results, that's what I did.
So then you would ask them to report back to you after this week, right?
It was done on a weekly basis, and then over the course of 2 months, they talked to me every week, but then 2 months for the final results.
So you didn't actually witness any kind of observable behavior on the study, did you?
I observed that a lot of them put baseballs in socks and hit themselves in the head.
So you're trying to tell the court today that they had come into your office and had proceeded to do that.
No.
So did you or did you not observe these behaviors yourself?
I didn't observe these behaviors, but I heard about them happening, and it was verified by the people that they did occur.
So all the results of your study are based off of your personal interviews with the participants.
Yes, along with other people who were involved.
So only the people in your study would know what the participants had talked about, correct?
They were confidential. It's the only way to get pure results.
And so, thank you, no further questions.
The
defense would like to call Dr. Stevenson to stand once again.
You will be sworn in again.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I still do.
Private Dr. Stevenson, nice to be back up here again.
Thanks.
So, can you tell me about the incidents before this trial between you and Dr. Bish?
Well, before this trial, Dr. Bish told me when I started here that he would give me 1 semester before he would start to play pranks on me. He has a history pranking in the department other faculty members, and he likes to scare them and do things of that nature. And I've been very careful since then to not leave my door open so that he can get in there.
So it's safe to say you kind of fear the.
Yeah, I'm definitely afraid of him. And there was always an understanding that he would respect if the door was shut, that he would not go into my office. But on Tuesday, he broke in and sent email to the defendant from my email account.
What did those emails say?
Well, he did it twice. Once was "you suck" and something else of that kind of nature.
Oh, very nice words. These are after he's been attacked, correct?
Yeah.
After he's been attacked, he sent emails, very hurtful words to our defendants.
Yeah.
Next, can you speak on behalf of Jessica, our defendant's counsel?
She is a student in one of my classes this semester, and she's a very bright young lady, very nice. I don't think she would be capable of doing anything to harm anyone. When Dr. Bish, I witnessed Dr. Bish pick on her all summer, and I know that it has continued this semester.
How did she respond to those pickings?
She would laugh at.
Relevance, it's on Dr. Stevenson's side if she committed a crime to the jury.
Have you seen any physical behavior, violent behavior by Jessica?
No.
No. Thank you very much.
Dr. Stevenson, you said that you're afraid of Dr. Bish?
Yes.
But this is in response to fearing pranks, not violence.
Both. He's been on trial twice for murder, and I'm concerned that he may have I've actually could harm someone. So yes, I fear that it could escalate beyond just prank.
All right. Now, when he was claiming to be the father of your child, could this have been a prank?
How so?
Well, you say it was against your wishes and that disturbed you. Is that not the purpose of a prank?
I mean, this was quite extreme. He called the media and published an article in a newspaper about it, and this is not just, hiding behind my door and trying to scare me.
Well, but if you fear escalation, could this not be a prank?
Well, that's why I issued the restraining order, because I was afraid that it would go further and he would try to kidnap my child or harm one of us.
Would you please answer the question? Could it have been a prank?
Objection, badgering the witness.
Dr. Stevenson, you say that you've never witnessed any violence from this man?
Correct.
But you have seen her arguing aggressively with Bish.
No, as I explained in my earlier testimony, she was quite calm during the argument. Dr. Bish was yelling and I was yelling, but Jess was very calm and trying to defend herself calmly.
Thank you. No further
questions. The defense would like to call Charlie Lee to the stand.
I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
How you doing today, Charlie?
Doing pretty well.
That's remarkable given your circumstance.
Right.
So could you explain to the court why you were at the scene of the crime that the prosecution has tried to place you at?
Is this the one where I was at the bottom of the stairs?
Yeah.
I was there because I was given a note that told me to meet there at that time, and when I got there, I saw Dr. Bish, our victim, lying on the floor, and my first instinct was to see if the person was alive, so I quickly rushed over to him, checked his pulse. That's about it, and he seemed like he was still breathing.
Did anyone else receive a note that, to your knowledge, to meet at this crime?
Well, after hearing Dr. Bish and talking with Jess here, I heard that they both also got notes telling them to meet at that time.
So is there anyone else that you know of that may have gotten a note, or to your knowledge, only the three of you?
I think it was just us three.
Okay. They said that they found your prints on the baseball. Why might your fingerprints be on the baseball?
See, that's a funny story because during Summer Fellows, we were doing our research, and another student, another researcher, there's three of us, another researcher comes in wearing gloves, with a baseball in her hand, and she tells us she wants to play catch. And to me, that's a weird concept, but we said yes anyways because we were bored out of our minds. So we started playing catch, and I feel that it was that same baseball that's being used today to blame me.
Do you happen to know the identity of the researcher with the gloves?
Am I allowed to say that? It was Cheyenne. She was wearing gloves, told me to play catch with her, thought it was weird, but apparently I'm going to use it if I'm being blamed for this stupid case. It's ridiculous.
Thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you a few questions about this stupid case. So, let's talk about the baseball. So, the last time you had encountered a baseball was apparently during the summer, correct?
Correct.
And that was when you touched that baseball, right?
Right, while playing catch with Cheyenne and Jess.
And that was the last. So you had not encountered a baseball since Summer Fellows to this day, correct?
Correct.
Yet, and so you were given a note in this case, correct?
Correct.
And that was your response in front of Thomas Hall?
It was at the bottom of it was very specific. It was at the bottom of the hall at a certain time. I wish I had the note with me right now, but I do not. I think I turned it in to the police officers that were investigating me.
So you followed the directions in that note to a T, correct?
Correct, because I was curious. And so out of curiosity, you saw Dr. Bish laying down there, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And you were so curious, you wanted to know if he was still alive, right?
I wanted to see. I saw Dr. Bish, not expecting him there. I just saw him there lying, and my first instinct, as if anyone's first instinct should be, is to see if the person's okay. I rushed over, checked his pulse. He was still breathing.
But he wasn't conscious, was he?
He was not conscious.
But he was still okay in your eyes, right?
I hoped he was okay. I hoped he wasn't dead or anything.
So then you left, didn't you?
I left, and I explained this to the investigators that were interrogating me, that I was in the paper the night before that said I was being blamed for the murder, or being accused of murder, or whatever it was. And to me, that was very false. And the next day when I see Dr. Biss there, I knew instantly it was a setup. When I went to rush over him, for some reason, at that moment, the media team was there. That made no sense to me, so I ran. I explained to the investigators right after that I was there because I was given a note, I saw him, took his pulse, said he was okay, but ran out of just pure fear.
So you immediately figured that this was a setup, correct?
Correct.
But that didn't stop you from getting, from your curiosity getting the best of you, right?
Right, I'm a very curious person.
So you want the court to believe that the media would just watch a helpless man fall at the bottom of the stairs and not help him?
They got there after.
So you obviously thought that running from the media was more important than helping Dr. Joel Bish.
I thought I helped him enough. I made sure he was okay. I checked his pulse. I put him at a more comfortable position.
So you thought that you helped him by leaving the scene?
Right.
No further questions.
Thank you.
The defense would like to call Jessica, please.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yep. Hi, Jessica. How you doing?
I'm good.
Well, first, can you please explain your relationship with Dr. Bish?
He's my advisor, and he teaches my behavioral neuro class, and he advises me in research.
Okay, and you will be receiving recommendations from him?
Yeah.
Grad school?
Mm-hmm.
So it's safe to say that you actually need him to get into grad school?
Yeah.
So you need him enough that you need him alive to get into grad school, basically. So I think that's a very valid point that she needs him. And I don't think, would you do anything to harm him?
Objection, Your Honor. Regardless of what counsel thinks, it is up to the witness, the counsel to elicit questions and not give statements to the jury.
Okay. Do you like
I ask
Dr.
that be
Bish?
stricken from the record.
That statement shall
Do you
be
like-
stricken from the record. Please state to the questioner.
Do you like Dr. Bish? Sure. Do you find this constant picking on you anything substantial?
What do you mean by substantial?
That you would feel like, upset towards? Do you feel upset towards him in any way?
No.
Okay. Have you ever seen an unstable or violent side of Dr. Bish?
Maybe unstable, but not violent.
Okay, unstable. Is it true that he has an unhealthy obsession with ghosts?
Yes, that's true.
Objection relevance. There's no relevance there. Please move on to the next one.
Dr. Bish stated that he saw a figure that looked like Snow White when he awoke from the ground. What is your least favorite Disney princess?
Snow White.
Can that be proven in any way?
I have email that says. I don't know how you can prove that.
Your least favorite princess is Snow White. Can you explain your relationship with Charlie Lee?
He's my buddy.
So do you get along with him?
Sure.
Okay. You consider him as your friend?
Yeah.
Have you had any physical reason to harm Dr. Bish?
Physical reason.
I mean, have any reason to physically harm Dr. Bish?
No, I guess not.
Have you ever hurt anyone physically in your life?
No.
We heard Charlie Lee's testimony on why fingerprints are on the baseball. Can you attest to that?
Yes, I've got the same story.
Okay,
It's true.
it says that you have an alibi while you were not at one of the incidents. Can you say what the alibi was?
I don't know what day you're talking about.
The September 12th. Is that what it was?
Is that a Tuesday? September 12th. I think it was a Tuesday, and that day I was hanging out with a friend.
Okay. Do you have any last words to add?
I'm innocent.
Thank you.
Prosecution?
Yes, You're close to Charlie Lee, aren't you?
Oh, what's close?
He's your buddy, isn't he?
He is my buddy. What does that mean, though? What is it as far as close?
I'm just using a word that you use.
Okay, yeah, he's my buddy.
In fact, you spent time with him over summer fellows, correct?
Yeah.
And then you're currently still spending time with him this year, right?
What do you mean? Am I spending time with him?
You interact with him.
He's in a class of mine, yeah.
So you share the same class.
Yeah.
And so you've gotten to know him pretty well over summer fellows, correct?
Sure.
In fact, you're on trial together with him today, aren't you?
This is true.
And so let's talk about your relationship with Dr. Bish. You're very close to Dr. Bish as well, right?
Sure.
But he calls you names, doesn't he?
He does.
You don't like that very much, do you?
Yeah. It's alright.
Can you answer yes or no, please?
Objection. Leading the witness.
If I may, Your Honor.
It's cross-examination.
Maybe.
Can
You question the witness, but rephrase it.
Yes, Your Honor. So, you and Dr. Bish, you rely on Dr. Bish for your recommendation letters.
I do.
And you want a good recommendation letter from Dr. Bish, right?
Well, that would be the point of a recommendation letter.
And so, and you're in court today telling him how great friends you are with him, correct?
I never said we were with Dr. Bish.
Yeah.
I never said I was friends with Dr. Bish.
But you are his mentee, correct?
Yeah.
So, he helped you a lot during summer fellows, right?
Yeah.
So you do spend a lot of time with Dr. Bish.
Sure.
In fact, you exchange several emails with Dr. Bish, don't you?
He is my advisor.
So there is an email exchange going on, right?
Yeah.
And so you want a really good recommendation letter from Dr. Bish.
Objection. Redundancy. Asking the same questions over and over.
Sustained. Continue with the question, and witness will answer either yes or no.
I'm pretty resentful.
And so you received a note that told you to go to the front of Thomas Hall, correct?
Yes.
And did you respond to that note?
Yes.
What did you find when you got there?
You may answer that question.
I'm allowed to say more than yes and no. What did I find?
Yes.
When I first got there, I was just sitting by myself listening to music. So I didn't find anything there. I just sat.
So you didn't witness any of that happen after you received that note?
Eventually, after there became, like, the media was there, I looked to see what was going on, and Dr. Bish was, like, lying up the stairs.
And that worried you, correct?
Yeah.
Because you are close to Dr. Bish.
Sure.
No further question.
You may sit down. Defense, do you have?
The defense would like to call Dr. Ballenstock to the stand.
What?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Please introduce yourself to the court.
I'm Dr. Tina Ballenstock.
And what is your doctorate in? What is it that you do professionally? Did you perform the medical follow-up on the victim following the first attack? No. Did you perform any medical follow-up on the victim after any of the attacks?
No.
After the second attack, and what was your the results of that medical examination?
I found a hematoma on the back of his head, just the left of the midline, and the CAT scan said that he was concussed.
And did he seek treatment any time after the subsequent attacks?
That was
In your professional opinion, if one is already suffering from a concussion and then is continually struck in the head with this, worsen the condition and possibly alter the individual's grasp on reality? No further questions.
Could we have the medical report from the evidence? Dr. Ballenstock, this is your report on Dr. Bish's head trauma, is that correct? All right, and you did a cranial scan, is that also correct?
Mm-hmm.
Is this the scan? It shows that there is a missing chunk of skull. Does it say that there is a missing chunk of skull anywhere in your medical report?
No,
Could you explain why that is?
because that was probably a previous condition. I'm only reporting on what was found that day. Now it's a concussion.
Yes, except that how can you say that this missing chunk of skull is not from being hit over the head?
I mean, you had a previous attack. That could have been from that one.
But aren't you supposed to be reporting on his medical condition? Did you not find that a missing fragment of his skull was relevant?
I mean, another doctor could have done it.
All right, you say that the head your report says that the head trauma was just to the left of the midline. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Can you explain to me why it's to the right? Yes. It's not just to the left. It's pretty far over there. So, but your report says just to the left.
Yeah.
Objection, they're arguing over semantics.
All right, sustained.
Would you look at Dr. Bish for a second? Does he look like he's missing a big chunk from his skull?
No. I mean, skin. I don't know. I can't really see inside of his head right now.
That's a pretty big chunk of skull. I think it would be visibly apparent. Is that correct?
Maybe he covers it up well. Makeup these days.
Do you know of any makeup that can cover an
Objection, relevance. That is overruled. Witness will answer the question based on their experience and knowledge.
Trying to get clay, you know. Have you ever seen like a movie where they take like a hole out of the head? You know, chunks. I don't know. There's makeup.
Dr. Ballenstock, have you ever watched The Incredible Hulk?
No.
No further questions.
The council could call the psychological evaluator to the stand, please.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Could you introduce yourself to the court, please?
I am Dr. Oka. I'm a forensic psychologist and a psychological evaluator.
And what was your importance related to the case at hand? What is it that you did?
I did two psychological evaluations on the victim, Dr. Bish, and at two separate times, after the third attack and then after the fourth.
And how would you describe the Professor Bish's mental state after suffering through
through these traumatic ordeals?
He seemed fine when I asked him questions about any type of if he was having trouble focusing or sleeping. He had no reported issues. At the time, he wasn't seeing anything or having anything that was out of the ordinary, as reported by him.
In your professional opinion, based on what you do, how do most victims in this circumstance that are the targets of murder tend to react psychologically? Are they stable, as Dr. Bish said to be, or?
Normally, they are.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. It doesn't matter what other people's state of mind are, just that Dr. Bish.
Sustained.
Do you find it atypical that Dr. Bish's state of mind is relatively normal given these abnormal turn of events?
No, in my professional opinion, I found it unusual that he seemed so calm and collected when talking about who he believed was attacking him. And he had even stated that he knew that they were out to get him, out to kill him, but he seemed totally relaxed. Not nervous, not jittery, answering questions without any kind of pause or hesitation or hitch to his voice.
So he demonstrated little to no fear when confronted with his would-be attackers.
That is correct.
No further questions. Thank you for your time.
Yes, Your Honor. I see you just came from work. So I'll start with this room so you can get back. So let's talk about your study of your evaluation of Dr. Bish. So your overall conclusion of your evaluation is that Dr. Bish was in fact competent, correct?
Correct.
You're aware that Dr. Bish has been through several attacks.
Yes.
You haven't met Dr. Bish before this forensic evaluation, did you?
Yes, I have.
Before, so when did you first meet Dr. Bish? No, I haven't. I'm sorry. No, I have not. So, this was your first time meeting Dr. Bish for your evaluation, correct? So, you don't know what Dr. Bish's personality was like before these incidents took place, do you?
On a first-hand account, no, I do not.
In fact, people react to stressful scenarios in different ways, correct?
Yes.
As a psychologist, you would know that there are certain stressors that occur in a person's life, correct?
Correct.
And everyone has their own way of coping with them, isn't that a fact?
Yes.
And also, you also learned that Dr. Bish was a victim of many traumas to the head, correct?
Correct.
So that could have led to, in itself to brain damage in your expert opinion, right?
Yes, it is possible.
In fact, there is even evidence to suggest that there was concussions that were going on in Dr. Bish's head, correct?
Yes, according to his according to the original evaluation and then his own opinion on as a neuro.
No further questions.
The defense rests, Your Honor.
All right.
So we'd like a 5-minute recess to prepare closing statements.
Okay, defense and counselors, you will have 5 minutes for your recess. Please stand by.
How's it going, officer? Fantastic right now.
go buy cards for us.
Yeah, you actually. Nice.
Yeah. Surprised nobody knew where that movie was from. It's my favorite movie. It's when he's sitting there with him in jail and he's like, the DA's gonna build a case against you. Building a case is a lot like building a house. He goes through that whole speech and he's like, and it's an illusion, it's a magic trick, it has to be, because you're innocent. I was gonna call you guys youths during my birthday. I was gonna say they're trying to build a case against these two youths. I'm just happy we were able to pull off the Incredible Hulk thing. And when she oh, really? Excuse me.
Like he never was. Yeah. Especially if you're like a big kid.
Attorneys will now present their final arguments. Please remember, what the attorney says is not evidence. However, do listen closely. They are intended to aid you in understanding the case. Prosecution, you may. Closing. Prosecution.
Says the defense makes good.
I mean, the judge is saying you go first. Do you want to be hung out today?
Okay, the prosecution has an objection of defense going first.
No objection to the defense going first.
Defense, you may go first.
2 words, circumstantial evidence. There is not one piece of hard evidence linking our defendants to the assault against Dr. Bish. All the prosecution has proven throughout this entire trial is that Bish was hit over the head, that he was harmed, but never have they once linked our defendants to harming Dr. Bish. Furthermore, our defendants have a very positive relationship with Dr. Bish. They need him to get into grad school. A lot of us know what that means too. So, seeing the positive relationship between our defendants and Dr. Bish proves a lot, nor have they ever had any physical interactions with Dr. Bish, nor have they ever harmed anyone in their past life. Additionally, through our psychological evaluator, it has been clearly stated that Dr. Bish is not in the full mental capacity that he could be in. He is not at the level that a normal person, we can say, is in. Therefore, and the evidence involved in the apple, the poisonous apple, the only person that knew about that is Dr. Bish. Before he, just by one look at that apple, he knew that it was poisonous. Can anyone tell me, can they look at an apple and see that it's poisonous if the poison is internal? We can't just look at an apple and know that it's poisonous. Dr. Bish knew that fact just by one look. And furthermore, he was the only person who saw that apple, who could attest to that apple that was sitting on his desk. And it was not linked to any other person. And it's safe to say that Dr. Bish is the only person that knows what exactly has happened to him throughout this entire trial and who has actually harmed him throughout this trial. And our defendants are innocent
because they have never had any negative altercations with Dr. Bish, resulting in the height that he's brought this case to. Therefore, Dr. Bish is not linked to our defendants in any way through any evidence, no forensic evidence, no physical evidence, besides a ball and a sock. The ball does not, if the sock does not fit, he must acquit.
Judge, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defense spins a pretty story. They have explanations for, well, everything, but anyone can come up with some sort of alternate answer. For any action, there's some sort of reason that could be given that it happened otherwise. But the fact remains that it needs to be a reasonable doubt. There are too many things where they are giving implausible explanations for solid evidence. You need a reasonable doubt if you are going to acquit. The fact is that Charlie and Jess both claim to be having a very good relationship with Dr. Bish. They're not really showing their true colors. Why would they say anything bad about him in court when, as the defense has stated repeatedly, they need him? They need him, but if out of court they don't have such a good relationship with him, I don't think they could expect a very good recommendation. Now, additionally, we have a witness placing Charlie Lee hitting Bish over the head in the fourth incident, and a picture of him then bending down to check Dr. Bish's pulse. He says that he was just curious. The defense says that he's a good Samaritan. Now, normally when one's checking if someone's okay, their first instinct isn't to check if they're alive just because they're lying on the ground. It's to shake them, call their name, see if they're all right, not check their pulse. He's, after 3 attacks failing, a poison apple not being eaten, he decided to make sure the deed was done, and when he was seen, he ran. Now, Jess claims to have such a sweet relationship with Bish. She doesn't mind being called names, which, I don't know, I tend to mind when people insult me repeatedly. And their alternate explanation for how Bish has been hit over the head is that he inflicted it upon himself upon watching The Incredible Hulk. They didn't show that he has. I've watched The Incredible Hulk. Dr. Bruce Banner himself admitted to having watching The Incredible Hulk and said it's a really, really good show. I've never hit myself over the head. I've certainly never hit myself over the head hard enough to remove a fragment of my skull. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we of the prosecution ask that you find Charlie Lee and Jessica Peterson guilty of 4 counts of aggravated assault, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted murder. Bish is fearful for his life after these 3 months of fear and horror and repeated attacks. Someone has to answer for that, and that should be those that are guilty of it, the defendants. In this circumstance, there is not a reasonable doubt. We have shown clearly that they did, in fact, attack Bish. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have only one answer. Guilty. Prosecution rests.
Now, members of the jury, you have heard all the testimonies concerning this case. It is now up to you to determine the facts. You and you alone are the judges of the facts. Once you decide that facts the evidence proves, you must then apply the law as I give it to you to the facts as you find them. Now, that being said, the first thing you guys should do is elect a full person who would preside over our deliberation and who's basically the chairperson, and remember the verdict must be unanimous. That means each one of you must agree on the verdict. And please consider the defendants separately but equally. The bailiff will now escort you to room 343 for deliberation. right. Would the foreman please rise? The matter of the state of Pennsylvania versus Charles Lee and Jessica Peterson. The charges are attempted murder, 4 counts of aggravated assault, and conspiracy to commit murder. What does the jury say?
Not guilty on all counts.
All right. Crosby Wild, not guilty. Court adjourned.
Good job.